gusta que nos estemos juntando, porque todos los días vamos ganando. No quieren que los latinos anden despertando. Abre los ojos para ver lo que está pasando. No les gusta que nos estemos juntando, porque todos los días vamos ganando. No quieren que los latinos ojos para ver lo que está pasando. Abre los ojos y libra la mente, pa' la verdad. Los ojos y libra la mente, pa' la verdad se mira sediente. Todos los días noticias te mienten. Políticos controlan cómo te sientes, pero no va a pasar tan fácilmente, porque muchos peleamos por nuestra gente. Un punto de vista que está diferente y lo voy a explicar más claramente. Aquí no estamos pa' las divisiones, pero los demócratas tienen otras intenciones. Nuestras ciudades andan en malas condiciones, gastando los impuestos por los 1,000 millones, sin buenas razones en otras naciones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Latino Free Minds. It is prime time Tuesday night, and this week we have a special guest on from Houston, Texas, Mr. Damani Felder. Mr. Damani Felder, welcome to the Latino Free Minds podcast. I am Gio, and I am very excited to have you on this week.
Well, Gio, thank you so much for having me. Everybody out there who is watching, these are some great guys. I highly encourage that you obviously hear them out, but then obviously share the love, spread the word, because there are still minds that can be awakened, and it starts with podcasts just like these. So Gio and the rest of the crew, thank you guys for having me. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Damani, I came across your account just a little over a couple weeks ago. We've been pushing out here in California a lot of videos, almost daily, with the Latino Free Minds posting about Proposition 50 in California, which was the gerrymandering law. It was gonna, it well, it wasn't. It has passed. It did pass. It's a law that allowed the politicians in California to remap or redistrict the state of California to allow for 5 Republican seats to in the next year or so be lost to the Democrat Party. So it's a little bit less representation for a state that has 40% Republican votes over 40% Republican votes, and it's going to take us down to about I believe it was 13%, which doesn't make a lot of sense for representation, but it is what California voted for, even though there's a lot of controversy that's coming out after it. If you don't mind, Damani, I'd love to play the video that we found, our first introduction to Damani.
If California is so bad and so liberal, why don't all the conservatives there just leave? That's a question I used to ask myself before I actually took the time to spend a decent amount of time here in the state. And I'll tell you this, California is a beautiful, beautiful state. Yes, it has its problems because Gavin Newsom continues to try to run it into the ground, but there are people here who are fighting for conservatism and what is right. And I'll be the first to tell you that California is worth saving. It's just like America. It is a part of America. And there are many individuals here who I would argue are actually even built different than conservatives in other parts of the country because they have to wake up and choose to fight every day. All too often, you'll see individuals who flee a place like California and they'll actually go to a state like Texas or even Florida and they'll almost kick their feet up and say, all right, we can relax now. Failing to realize that the end goal of liberalism is not coexistence as they claim it is. It's about subjugation. So they will actually follow you to the new state that you go to, and they will not stop until they force you to bend to their will. So the fact of the matter is individuals who are willing to fight them here are strong patriots who deserve our respect. And let me tell you, I do respect anyone who is willing to wake up every day, even in Gavin Newsom's own backyard, and fight for what is right, fight for what is true, fight for the American way. So to those of you out there who are in California, just know that you have my respect, you have my support, and hopefully one day we'll be able to restore California to her former glory as well, because it's worth it and you all deserve it. Oh, and one more thing. If you do live here, vote no on Prop 50. Thank me later.
And we ended up losing that one, and I include you in that lead, Damani, because 5 seats, that's at the national level.
Yeah.
And that not, I have to ask, what inspired you to make that video?
Well, what's interesting is my wife actually comes from California. She grew up in Riverside, so we were out there this past month now, and we were, showing our little one, our little almost 2-year-old now, Mama's old stomping grounds, and we actually spent some time there. We started in San Diego, and then we made our way all the way up to Redwoods National Forest and beyond. So it was quite the road trip there. But that video was actually taken in Pismo Beach, and one of the things that have been weighing heavy on my mind was the fact that just because I'm in a different state does not mean that I should not care about the issues or the plight of individuals in other states. All too often, I think California does get an unfortunately bad rap, and so many good people are lumped into the collective whole. You'll see a video, for example, of something ridiculous going on in Los Angeles. And then a lot of the time, individuals from other states, they will look at that and say, oh, yeah, that's just California, failing to account for so many millions upon millions of good Californians who do live in the state who do want what's best. So the fact that you had an opportunity to vote on Prop 50, which, make no mistake, was just an effort from Gavin Newsom to effectively have a comeback to what happened here in Texas, actually, because I believe that movement began in Texas with we redrew some of our congressional maps to get more representation because we do not want so many leftists essentially running roughshod over our state here. So Gavin Newsom essentially had Prop 50 put out essentially more or less to be an antidote to what took place in Texas. And it's very unfortunate that it wound up being successful or that it wound up passing. But I felt very strongly that we should amplify the situation going on over in California and shed more light on it. And it really is incumbent upon anyone who does have a voice to speak up about those issues that they might not be the most amazing issues in the world to talk about. But if I don't, shed light on what's going on in other parts of the country, then I do us all a disservice because this is a fight in totality, not a fight in silos. So I believe our movement will be stronger if we're able to stand up for each other and support each other no matter where we may be in the country.
I have to admit that as a Californian, I have to appreciate somebody from outside of the state, especially Texas, coming in and saying what you said in the video. And everything that you just said right now is 100% right on the money, especially when you consider those 5 seats will affect the United States as a whole. It's going to affect us in the midterms coming up next year. It could affect the whole second half of Donald Trump's presidency, which, there in the media, there seems to be a lot of controversy. When I look at the policy, it's almost like, well, that a lot of that makes sense. We're just following the law type situations, but it's really going to hold things up, and I can see it going into the 2028 election, affecting that election as well.
Yeah,
So
it's a frustrating push pull, Geo, and I know I can imagine what it's like to wake up every day. And that was what I partially mentioned in the video as well. To have to wake up and fight what, in many cases, can feel like a losing battle. Because trust me, I get it. There's some people in some parts of the country who throw their hands up. They say my vote doesn't matter. I would counter that the very individuals who uh, are engaged in all sorts of election chicanery very much do hope that they can beat individuals into submission by essentially making it feel as if there's no point in even voting. Therefore, there's no extra impetus for them to do what they continue to do in the state. But if enough people say, even though I feel like it might be a waste of my time, I still have to show up, then eventually that dam has to break. And I do still have hope, even for the state of California. What's really interesting is if you look back through history, even of the state, there was Republican leadership in California in the past. Now, bear in mind, it was closer to 50 years ago, I believe, than it was today.
yeah,
And even in states like Washington State as well. The fact of the matter is, people have had decades upon decades of Democrat leadership, and they have nothing to show for it. And of course, there are some individuals who are going to be committed to ignorance and committed to their own misery.
yeah.
But I have to believe that at some point there will be more individuals who realize they have to try something new because what has been in place is not working for them, and hopefully those days are coming soon.
It did feel here in California, being here and hearing people in person. Um, Maybe I'm in an echo chamber where I'm at. but it did feel like the state was moving towards what they would call, what, because we call Texas, a lot of people try to call Texas purple, and to me it's like, well, we were kind of getting there with California too. When you consider 40% of the state voted for, or 40% of voters in the state voted for Donald Trump, I would venture to say that we are an election or two, presidential elections, away from becoming a, what would be a swing state. Uh, but with this now gerrymandered map, we are now fully Democrat, at least for about the next decade.
Mhm.
And what drives me crazy about this is, after the special election, when the polls came out, over 90% of people said, well, we should have a bipartisan, outside group that draws these maps. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, if you were an informed voter, you would have known that that's what we had when we voted that in
Mhm.
2008.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, uh, a very large percentage of the voters that did get to vote last week didn't know that, or
Mhm.
maybe they did. I don't know, and now they're lying during these polls, because when the cameras turn on, it's like, oh yeah, I'm centered, you know.
Yep.
So that either California is in 2016 to 2020 to 2024 has been moving more Republican, and then suddenly it's gone full Democrat 90%, or something wasn't right in the wording. There wasn't enough information out there to let the voters know, hey, you need to vote in this direction or that direction. This is what this means. This is what we have right now. Just so you know, it is bipartisan now, and if you vote yes for this, you are basically giving the reins to the politicians.
Mhm. Well, you know, Gio, the left they prey on ignorance. And the least educated, least informed populace is the most easy to control. And they know this. They've exploited this. I mean, think about the lack of educational aspiration that we see, not just in California, but in many other blue cities, if you will, across the country. If you have population that is not well informed, that does not understand history, and then, as trite as the saying may be, you're doomed to repeat it. And they are repeating that in many cases. The shame of it is, too, that the information that people need to know is literally right in front of them. It could not be more accessible. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And it
Yeah,
seems that people
exactly.
are more accustomed to, or more prefer being told what to think than learning how to think. That's the only reason you'll have so many individuals who, I would argue, many members of the electorate, particularly the younger demographic, are unfortunately some of the least well educated voters in history. And there's no excuse for that other than the fact that they believe in this concept, this antiquated concept of political tribalism, and the concept of individualism is so lost on them. This is why you see so many of them conforming to whatever random TikTok trend they might see. It's because to them, conformity is life, and
Exactly.
they do not want to have any sort of friction in their lives whatsoever. So even if they don't fully agree with something, and if you were to really corner your average younger person, a lot of them don't actually believe what they're saying. They're simply saying what they feel like they have to say in order to fit in this current modern world. It's a very sad state of affairs. But until individuals begin to actively seek out information, or until individuals like yourself and myself figure out how to get through to them wherever they are, even if that's on TikTok, how do we develop the right kind of content to get them to start asking the right questions, to actually encourage them to start thinking again? Because once you start thinking, once those scales fall off, once that veil is lifted, it is almost impossible to go back to that wanton ignorance. But you have to actually get to that point first, and that's the goal. That's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, you know what, you you mentioned a lot there, and I kind of want to come back to, um, this comment that you made about, uh, the votership. If I vote, it doesn't count. Well, I went to a meeting a few weeks ago where a local election, not here where exactly where I'm at. California is big. So a couple hundred miles away, there was an election where a state senator won by 2 votes.
Mm,
It was 2 people away from turning in their ballots from to flipping the Senate in California to even Democrat and Republican. So, votes do matter,
mhm.
especially if you are of a certain persuasion, and you maybe have a friend and you guys are, I'm not going to go vote. Oh, well, if you're not going to go vote, I'm not going to go vote either. Well,
Mhm.
you two idiots, you guys were going to be the ones to flip it over.
Yep.
So, your votes do count, but we just look at that final number and we go, "Oh, wow, it was thousands of votes away. My one little vote wouldn't have mattered."
Mhm.
You can't think like that. You can't think in after the vote. You have to
Yep.
you have to put your vote in, at least that way the next day when that new representative or that incumbent comes back in, when they start doing things that you hate, you're like, "Well, that's not what I voted for."
Mhm.
Or if you did
Well,
vote for that, you can go, "Well, I better be informed better for next time." You know?
exactly. Well, you
So,
know what I feel like you have to do, every person has to vote like their vote will be the deciding vote.
it
We
should.
see these huge numbers all the time, but it's really tempting to say, I'm better off just staying home. It's that the status quo will continue. I know for a fact that in California, some parts of California, and even here in Texas, even across the entire country, voter turnout was very low for 2025. That is to be expected if you look at historical trends. Most people will show out. It's almost like there's 3 tiers. There's the presidential election. That's where you get the most turnout, and then you have the House Senate races about every 2 years or every 4 years, right? And then below that is the local elections. That I would almost argue should be backwards, because a lot of the policies that really affect your day to day life are going to come from the local level first.
Spot on.
So if you're not willing to actually engage in those local elections where you're deciding who's going to be your city leadership, your county leadership, then sitting there and saying, "Oh, the president will fix everything," it's a fool's errand, because the president, much of his policy is not going to directly impact you the same way local elections will. So even here in Texas, there's plenty of people who just didn't show up. It's 2025. Who cares? We just won last year. And that level of apathy and complacency is what I would argue could justify individuals thinking, "Oh, Texas might be a purple state." No, it's not. But when you see certain trends in certain elections, it starts to paint a different picture than what reality truly is, which then it requires more individuals to come out and correct the record every 2 and 4 years, when it should not even be within the margin of error from a statistical standpoint. So those are just my takes. But let me ask you this, Gio. Actually, I have a question for you. I don't get to talk to people who are boots on the ground in California too often. Where do you think the tipping point is? What I mean by that is, even though you have lots more elected officials now who are on the left side of the aisle, at what point will they be left behind by their own party and forced to take positions that are so radical, even for them, that they cannot do it? Do you think that is within the realm of possibility within the next decade?
Um, I I have to come at this as the person that I am, as a skeptic. As much as I believe that the Republicans can take over, I don't think I shouldn't say take over. Let's just call it a swing state, because it would take a lot for California to go conservative. That's just the reality of it. We have a lot of big cities. A lot of people believe in um, uh, social welfare type things, and that's fine. I agree with those perspectives a little bit, but I also like to save my tax money
Yeah,
for different things. But where I get really skeptical is that I believe, and this is not a California issue, I think this is an American issue. I believe that Americans are very emotional and very forgetful.
yeah,
Just as an example, here in California, just a few months ago, we were all upset with Gavin Newsom and the Democrat Party here in California after the fires in Los Angeles. This wasn't the
yeah.
first time. This wasn't the first time that homes were burned down, that lives were lost, that firefighters' lives were put at risk, that the emergency responders were put in a terrible position. It happened just a few years ago in Paradise, California.
Yep.
And I believe that was in 2017, 2018. And Gavin Newsom won the election right after that. And then this election, this special election that the Democrats pushed through at the last minute, uh, was also right after this fire in Los Angeles or in the Pacific Palisades. But we
Mhm.
forgot about that. Like I said, Americans are very forgetful. We're very emotional. All it took for California or the Democrats in California to make us forget was to say the secret word, the Trump word. Oh,
Mhm.
this is how we're going to get them back. This
Yep.
look what happened. Look what Donald Trump and the Republicans did in Texas. We need to get them back. And it said
Yep.
that on the ballot. This is an answer to what the Texas has done and making sure that we get back at Donald Trump and block his policies. Well, what do we really have against his policies? Let's just take
Mhm.
the man out of the picture. Let's look at the policies. Are we upset that ICE is enforcing the law?
Yep.
I mean that. If you're upset about that, call your congressman and
Yep.
ask them what they're doing in Washington to turn that law around. If you don't
Yeah.
like that, make them change the law. But Donald Trump
Yep.
is just enforcing it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
That's my thought. Except for in California, it's a sanctuary state, so all the cities get in the way. So for me,
Mhm.
as slowly as I see California moving to what I would consider the swing state, I don't exactly know the answer to what the tipping point could be because we're so forgetful. I mean, the state would have to burn down.
Let
There
me
would
let
have
me
to be a fire in Southern California, Central California, Northern California. Well, Northern California, I want to pay respects to my folks up there in the state of Jefferson. If you're watching, the state of Jefferson is just Northern California. They wanted to secede from California.
Yeah.
My respects to them because they always vote conservative, and they are a difference in a state. They don't have any cities up there, so they
Yeah.
don't get any representation. I live near a city that voted uh, for yes on 50. Um, but I think it would have to be a catastrophic event, another
Yeah.
fire, but it would have to happen close enough to the election. And the way the elections play out in California, there's so much time for voting that people might forget, especially if they turn on the news.
Well, here's another question for you. So let's say it's not natural disaster related, because Californians to some degree are habituated to or accustomed to natural disasters. Just like here in Texas, we know hurricanes are coming. There's nothing we can do to stop them. Really, we just have to hunker down and get through it. Would it require something as extreme as stating that, for example, post-birth abortions are okay, or that, oh, now we are going to allow, adults or predators to fraternize with children? Do you think that would paint some leftist into a corner, or do you think they are that committed to their party that they will continue to support even things that are anathema to common sense?
Damani, I find that hard to answer just because I think that that's already been played.
Mm.
The Democrats in California have quietly admitted that they're okay with late term abortions, even abortions up to a month after birth. They had talked about that, and they swept it under the rug. Right? The media just we didn't talk about that, but that's what they were saying. The person that wrote the bill admitted that. Um, you know, here might be the honest answer to the first question in what would it take? It would take for the state to accidentally vote in a Republican governor and for people to see, oh, this ain't so bad. He's not that bad. And I thought we would get that in 2021, I believe it was when we almost recalled Newsom.
Yep.
Um, we had Larry Elder on the ballot,
Mm-hmm.
and he's from South Central. He's black. The sage of South Central, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the things he talked about made a lot of sense. Uh, I thought it was, while he is conservative, I think a lot of the things that he says uh, are geared towards the because he's from the south, because he's from South Central, it's geared towards the minority population, right? We
Mm-hmm.
hear what he talks about. If you're willing to open up and listen, and he's when he's talking about his the statistics, and you know, it starts with the nuclear family, and we need to make sure that fathers are present. When he talks about things like
Mm-hmm.
that, it's like, yeah, man, the guy is right. He's absolutely
Yep.
right. But then the media came out, and they they coined him the black face of white supremacy.
I remember
As
that.
soon as they
Yep.
did that, it was like, well, I don't know what the chances are. I honestly walk into the elections now. I go vote. I tell all my friends, you got to go vote. But I walk in like, man, that they figured out a way to get to their emotions again. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
lose this one
Yep.
because they gave him the name, and on every channel they're calling him the black face of white supremacy. And
Mm-hmm.
and then when we blame them on things like the death of Charlie Kirk, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to bring that up because there's a lot of it's sad, it still hurts a lot of people to think about Charlie Kirk right now, but um when they talk about how the rhetoric might have pushed the shooter to doing that, and the Democrats are like, what rhetoric? Well, you call us Nazis, and you call us and you talk about how his rhetoric, right, is against minorities, and he's racist, this and that, and then something happens, and you're like, it wasn't us, we didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're
Yep.
just gonna pretend and forget,
Yeah.
right?
And that amount of cognitive dissonance, willful cognitive dissonance, is concerning. To see it play out in real time, I think, was very shocking and very jarring to a lot of people who at least were hoping, at the bare minimum, you show you have some basic shred of humanity left. But to your point earlier, if many individuals have already warmed to the concept, as gruesome as, post-birth abortion, then celebrating the death of someone that you might disagree with politically suddenly doesn't seem like that far of a leap, which is very sad, very
Yeah.
alarming, but it's a truth that we have to acknowledge here in the present day.
And I'll tell you why, Damani. Why that doesn't work is because the only outlet that will mention that, aside from a podcast like this one, is Fox News.
Hmm.
They're not watching Fox News. Most people don't watch
Yep.
Fox News. You go on. I mean,
Yep.
you traveled recently. What are they playing on all the airport TVs? CNN, every station.
Yep.
I used to travel for work, flying through Dallas and uh, different airports in Texas, and you land and you're like, wow, they're watching CNN here too. Like,
Yeah.
it's
These airports, they do have contracts with CNN, or CNN has certain
they
lingo written into their
yeah.
contracts on
That's
where they
all the
have to be
viewers that
displayed, which,
CNN has, right?
yeah, 100%. So, I mean, be that as it may, I know a lot of people who disagree strongly with it, but these media outlets are very sneaky. The ability for them to typecast Larry Elder as the black face of white supremacy, and for there not to be huge marches in the streets when literally, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, there is a white female wearing a gorilla mask who threw eggs at him and was caught on camera, and there was no outrage.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so we are living in an upside down world at this point. Like,
Exactly.
I can't reason with some people, and as much as I want to, I think the point that we may be reaching in some cases is some individuals truly are living out that phrase, or some people will burn down the entire world just to rule over the ashes. And that
Exactly.
level of political fatalism almost has become part and parcel of radical liberalism. And what's really sad is that the virus seems to have infected young white women the most. If you want to hear something crazy and out of left field, unfortunately, all too often it's going to come from someone who's like that. And they've been statistically shown to be much more likely to have a mental illness. Actually, over 50% of them have self proclaimed some sort of mental illness. So, how can we take them? How can we take this seriously? How can we even go so far as I believe it was? There was a different California politician. Don't hold me to this. Don't quote me. It may have been Kamala Harris or someone Kamala adjacent, or Kamala, whatever, or Karen Bass or someone along those lines. He was talking about flirting with lowering the voting age to 16. I'm
Pelosi.
sorry, but
Yeah.
yeah, oh, it's Pelosi. Okay, he was one of the four horsemen. But that was something that she was talking about doing. I was like, you literally have these young people wrapped around your finger already, and they already are not well, and you're gonna fill their heads with more poison, and that is your game plan. Here's one thing I want viewers out there to remind themselves: the leftist agenda, the liberal dogma, is ultimately self defeating, and it will make them go extinct if they are not allowed to indoctrinate anyone else. Think about it. From a physical perspective, progressives are having far fewer children than conservatives are. They are all wrapped up in this cult of hedonism. But the fact of the matter, and they know this, they've mastered this. They know that if they can just get to that next generation and get to those young impressionable minds the quickest, then they can lock up essentially the next generation. And they've been doing that time after time. There's no other there's no other explanation for their continued dominance except for that commitment to indoctrination. And that occurs when, and we could talk for hours, Gio. The state convinced a lot of people, hey, if the woman fully believes now that staying home and raising up the family, even for a couple years during those formative years, if the woman views that as oppression, and views empowerment as, oh, I should get a job too, and then work for someone who takes me away from my family and like bow to them. And on top of that, the government gets to take in twice the taxable income, right? Because there's two people working now. If they can view that, then guess what? That means the state gets the kids for 8 hours a day. So for the vast majority of a child's upbringing, guess what? They are being fed whatever the state wants them to hear. And that is why all too often, the college campuses, you see what's going on at UC Berkeley and other places. That is the final battleground for the left. If they haven't gotten to you by then, that is why the rhetoric has ramped up to 11 there, because that's their last chance to fully get to you. Because they know when you get out and start working a job for the first time and paying those super high taxes that you would vote for if you believe what they said, you probably wouldn't want to support these people. But that's why
Exactly.
the educational system is largely to blame for this. The lie the state has sold to so many people. And I am encouraged when I see reports saying that, back in the 1970s, there was about 13,000 homeschool kids in the US, or I believe in the US, and now that number is north of 4 million. That's encouraging because it means that the right people are taking full ownership of the educational process yet again, which can only lead to deeper thinkers moving forward. And hopefully they do just enough to keep them from being indoctrinated by the left, because they will still try even after those formative years. So, like I said, I could talk for a long time, but you can tell I'm pretty passionate about this. So I will yield the floor back so someone else can speak.
Looks like Daniel's jumping on, Latino Free Mind Daniel, who is the person that reached out to Damani and got him to come on this week. Daniel, welcome.
What's up, guys? Now I was listening in, so I figured I'd jump in. I wasn't feeling too good. My throat's kind of
The
been
conversation got you though, huh?
yeah. So, but
Well,
no, it's. I've been
I
listening to what you
I
guys have been
wanted
saying.
I wanted to, because we got the field set up right. We've been talking about California, and I want to zoom out because this this Democrat win didn't just happen in California. It happened nationwide and almost all elections. It was the blue wave, right? Um, Most notably, New York City, Manami won. Damani, what do you think has caused people to run back to the Democrat Party?
Ignorance, like we mentioned before, but I will say that there's a possible silver lining to all this, and I mentioned this in one of my more recent videos, is that the clock has started to tick for certain places. People can only take so much. I mean, the fact that every time you see a radical leftist be installed, you see people start to move away from that area. Guess what happens eventually? What will happen is, all those millionaires and billionaires that they're going to try to literally tax to death. Guess what? When they leave, then their money leaves with them. So eventually, someone's left holding the bag. It's just a numbers game. So all these people who, I'm going to flock to New York City and get all this free stuff. No, you're not, because all that money you were going to tax is gone. So now what are you going to do, right?
Mhm.
So that gives me some hope that hopefully now, okay, congratulations, you got what you wanted. You want a radical socialist or a communist in there? Okay, be careful what you wish for. And the hope is that enough people will realize they got sold a bill of false goods. I mean, the guy couldn't even get through a celebration victory event without charging, what was it, $13 per beer. You having a cash bar, and this is a guy who wants to give you things for free, right? Literally the next day, he makes some new campaign video saying, "I told you to stop sending money. Start sending money again." You're the socialist. Where's the money going to come from, right? So
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I could talk all night about this as well,
Mhm.
but I do want people to realize that the clock is ticking on these radicals. They will be proven to be ineffective because their policies never work. And furthermore, in these big areas, we had New York, we had New Jersey, we had Virginia, I believe, as well as California. Those were kind of the big prizes of the night. Yes, they all did go blue. In a At a 30,000-foot view, that is not altogether surprising. We always
Mhm.
have hope that we can flip X or Y, but the fact of the matter is these are areas that have been voting blue for a long time. So if
Yeah.
anything, we were the underdog and we put up a fight that could have been very much more aggressive. I will say that.
Let's not be
So
fooled in New York City. We didn't have a dog in the fight.
facts. We had
It-
Cuomo. What? His own vote for the Democrat.
vote
This
for the
is when
guy
we
that
can't
killed
be out.
everybody, or the
Yeah,
guy that's giving everything away, allegedly.
yeah, pretty much. And that's
Great options,
where.
guys.
Yeah, it's a shame. We have to start running better candidates, running better ground games in these areas because these races are winnable in some cases. But it is frustrating sometimes, even to see. Sometimes even Trump himself, you will make a pick that I don't agree with. I think, oh, this is a weak candidate. We should be running someone who's different. And sometimes he even has to learn the hard way. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of individualism. I see both y'all nodding your heads, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, we might be on the right side of the aisle, or at least willing to consider both sides, but we can at least ask those questions and call out our own and hold them accountable. Whereas many individuals on the left have devolved into being perpetual yes men. They will literally vote for a pile of excrement on the San Francisco streets if it has a D next to its name. That's the level of devotion they have. So the positive thing is that we are still willing to ask those
Hey,
questions, even though it
that's
might
not a
feel
nice
like
thing
it's.
to call wiener.
I was waiting for something. I was waiting for something, but no, I could get on my soapbox. But you can tell I'm passionate about
Mhm.
even other parts of the country that are unfortunately going to have to suffer in the short term. But hopefully that suffering will have a silver lining to it or a light at the end of the tunnel.
I,
Yeah.
I have to go back to um the big thing. The blue wave happened, right? And what bothers me now, what bothers me this week, I turn into the news on Sunday night and I find out that for some reason the Democrats have finally said, "All right, we give in. You'll have your votes
Mhm.
for the government shutdown." They were
Oh
holding it.
yeah,
There's no talk about, okay, well, this is what we'll do for healthcare. This is what we'll do for this thing that we've been crying for and that thing we've been crying for. It's just, we won. We'll give it back to you. Our
yeah,
fight will be next year.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
how
what?
much the Democrats really care about healthcare. That's how much they care about making sure that illegal immigrants are taken care of. They don't really care. They really care about just playing with the emotions, playing with the
Yep.
emotions, and then just take it right back and go, let's just chill. We'll wait for the next.
Yeah.
We'll wait for the next election, and right before we'll hit their emotions. And for me, what really got me this week, it wasn't so much the shutdown. It was what happened the next day, where the news is now Donald Trump's talking about sending out a $2,000 check, and I'm thinking, why don't you save it? Save it for
Hmm.
next September, so that the
Yeah.
Americans can remember the $2,000 that you sent them, because we have short memories.
Yeah.
we
No.
want to play.
Uh,
We want to play emotion. We need to play the Democrat game and get emotions too, and send people a check and let them think like, "Hey, man, Daddy Trump took care of me. I'm gonna go vote for these R's now."
you know what's sad is even that may not even be enough for a lot of people.
Hmm.
What's sad? I mean, because the thing is, if you want to give him credit for stimulus checks, I personally was not a proponent of those because I realized how disastrous their impact would be, and we're feeling that impact even today.
Yeah,
But if you're gonna, basically politics is what have you done for me lately? That
it
really is what
is,
it boils down
and
to.
and why send out a why send out a check? We got a debt that's mounted up. Why
Yeah.
don't we go pay the debt?
How
Hmm.
about you? You know, the best stimulus that you can give the country is no more federal income tax.
Yep.
If you make that one change, I will get up there to where is it, South Dakota, and I will start carving Trump's face into Mount Rushmore myself.
Ooh man,
That's one of those things that
ooh man,
if
pick
you
me up
did
on the
that,
way. Take the long road.
Mhm. No,
but no, these
yeah.
are the thing. We don't want like a one time. Oh, I got $2,000. Okay, we lucky me, right? But then, down the road, the next, well, a lot of people didn't realize that those stimulus checks in some cases wound up as taxable income. So guess what? End of the year, guess who's holding the bag? It's like the government's going to get theirs, right? How about
Hmm.
Exactly.
if we're taking in all this extra tariff money, then let's allocate that, pay down national debt, forget the $2,000, right? But then hopefully there's some other way where people can realize some extra benefit. Because most people, it was so frustrating to me, they get to tax season. Oh my God, I got a free refund. You got your own money back that the government stole from you and held for an entire year as an interest-free loan.
Hmm.
How do you
Exactly.
feel about that?
No, and
We've got
it's
it. And I don't know if that comes down to like rebranding it or really explaining to people this was never something free. This was yours. You could have had
mhm.
this. You could have dug out of X hole, Y hole, or Z
Oh
hole,
my
but you
God.
view it as a bonus. As soon as it comes in, you spend it. You want to go on a vacation and then count on the government to give you another refund next year. Like, you do not want to become a slave to the government. That is exactly what you have become without even knowing it in many
Damani,
cases.
you just told me something new. You're telling me that that's my money?
Imagine that, right? Imagine that.
What sucks the most is when they take thousands out of your tax money, and then at the end they go, you still owe us a little more." That
Mm,
is annoying. That is annoying.
mm.
But no, I just want to go. Sorry, because I hopped in late, but I want to go back to the Prop 50 thing, and yeah, what Gio said, it was good that when we saw you do that video, and you're not even here. With California, a lot of people, they clown on California, right? And in a sense, we deserve it. But, there is a lot of people here, as you said in your video, that are doing their best to fight for it, right? And I think that's one of the reasons we, in a sense, did, I don't know, almost a clip a day on Prop 50, almost just about, um, to try to get people informed. So you didn't get that exit poll that says 90% of the people that voted yes wanted an independent commission. Um, so that's kind of why we do that, and why we're grateful when we see someone like yourself talk about California when you don't live here, because at the end of the day, you guys already touched on this, it's going to affect the Congress, the US Congress,
Yep.
and everybody. And we have Nancy Pelosi that's retiring, but we have, and you mentioned him, Gio, Scott Wiener, that's going to go for that seat. So now you got that guy that's going to not just introduce the bills he's introduced in California are horrendous.
I
I
I
think you were
I
asking Gio about like
I'm not
when
calling
we're,
him this. I'm not calling him this. I'm calling a lot of the policies that he's pushed pedophilic.
yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
So, he's doing that in California. And now he's going to go into US Congress. He's more than likely going to win. He's running in Castro Valley, San Francisco. I mean, that's a safe haven for that sort of uh, thought process, mindset, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. And, and that's kind of the thing that we've tried to tell people. It's like, you can run away from California, but if we don't stop these people, guess what? Scott Wiener is going to be on a national level. Like
Yep.
you can't, unless you move countries, he might affect you. And if the Democrats have a majority at any point and he's in there, that's when the whole country needs to watch out. And I get it, they can laugh at California, but it could come your way.
At some point,
Facts.
the nation's prayers will be answered, and California will have an earthquake, gets knocked into the ocean. California's gone, just like everybody's been praying for. And there will be a new spot that the Democrats will be taking over. It won't just be New York, because they want a huge section. They're going to it might be Florida. It might be Texas. Look, Damani, be careful, because what was the guy's name out of El Paso?
It was
Francis
Beto O'Rourke. Robert
Beto.
Francis. I'm sorry. Robert Francis O'Rourke. I'm so sorry. The
Beto.
Irishman cosplayer. Yeah, that's him.
Beto might just skateboard his way into the governor's office.
Man, that guy is a sucker for pain. I'll tell you what. Time after time he runs, he's going to lose. I mean, Abbott, he's got some problems we can talk about later on, at some point as well. But Danny, I thought you nailed it as well yourself. That I do think that some people, it's so difficult to try to quantify this. Some people are just going to keep doing what they've been doing, regardless of how bad they know it is for them.
Mm-hmm.
That really boils down to pride. Some people have a pride complex that's so extreme that they can't admit, if they are wrong, they can't admit, and they'll literally vote for their own undoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sad to see, but I do think that there is hope on the horizon if we have more voices that are rising up in defense of what is right. And that only happens when we have people like yourselves who take up that mantle of leadership. To truly strike out is not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's very rewarding personally at the end of the day.
Yeah, no,
No
and
problem
there's
losing.
there's people that won't jump in the fight because they already feel that they're gonna lose. So it's like, what's the point? We're not those
I've
type
talked
of
to
people.
several people, Damani.
Yeah.
Daniel. I've talked to so many people, and to hear from not just one person but multiple people saying, "Well, I didn't really want to say nothing because I already knew we were gonna lose."
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. You kept your mouth shut because you knew we were gonna lose? What if you would have reached 50 people? What if everybody that thought like that would have just reached 50 people? I don't know. We
Yep.
might not have won, but it would have been closer. We wouldn't have had our asses kicked. That's just my thought.
Yeah. And then just to add to what you said, Damani, it's I think it's a Turkish proverb, and I don't know it word for word, but it's about the forest voting for the axe. Because
Yes.
the axe convinced him that since his handle was made of wood, it was for them. So that's exactly what you were saying about people will keep doing something to their own detriment, because in this sense, the Democrats are the party of the people. So it's kind of the same thing there.
And I think you touched on this earlier, Danny, as well, but people think it's not my state, not my problem. I'll be the first to tell you that if there's one thing that I know about liberalism, about progressivism, about radical leftists in general, is that they do not stop. They are relentless. They will develop 10, 20, 30-year plans that are always going to be financially backed by the likes of George Soros, who has almost limitless pockets and limitless resources. They will fund the protesters. They will fund the riots. They will fund anarchy because they thrive on and capitalize on the chaos and anarchy that they themselves create. And they will literally come to your backyard. They'll do it. Misery loves company. These people are inherently miserable and deeply unhappy with themselves, deeply unhappy with whatever past trauma they have. And the only reason that they want to subjugate other individuals is to make other individuals feel as helpless as they have themselves for quite some time. So that is why liberalism will come knocking at your back door. They will try to
Mhm.
break it down because they're like, if we are going to be unhappy, we want everyone else to be unhappy and miserable along with us to justify that misery that has become part and parcel of our party because we have nothing to aspire to, nothing to look forward to. This is all there is. We are a cult of hedonism, of self-serving tendencies, and no one can give me any sort of hope whatsoever because the core of liberalism seems to be hopelessness and a proclivity to support one's own self-destruction. And some people will call that a death wish. That really is
Mhm.
what it is in the
And conservatives fall into that, just like when they say, "Oh, my vote's not gonna matter," or that hopelessness of like, what's the point? You know, they're in there too, and you know, to kind of switch it up. And it's like one of the things that I liked about, once we found your video and your account is for me personally. I don't know how Gio feels, but for me personally,
Hey, did you
like,
ban Damani's content? I did.
no, is this though? Look, it's you on your page.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
you
yeah.
giving your takes. That's you. That's what we try to do. It's us talking to the people, and hey, hopefully one person listens, and hey, I didn't know this, right? But from my point of view, is like I think too when it comes to making content and stuff like that, it's like we have to set a standard. um
Mhm.
and the voices that we elevate have to be genuine voices, people that are trying. I hope that's what we're doing, right? At least that's what we're trying to do, and I see that that's what you're doing too. um
Yeah.
and what I see too is, though, a lot of people on the conservative side just share like rage bait clips. It's just like viral clips just reposted, and they use their accounts just for that. They have hundreds of thousands of followers, but they're not providing anything of insight, not anything that, yeah, maybe what they're sharing is like, oh, that's awful, right? And yeah, maybe people need to see it, but there's nothing that most of their followers probably already like that stuff anyways.
Yep.
They're not bringing anyone new to the table, any thoughts that any person that maybe, oh, like I said, didn't think about that, didn't know that. And I appreciate when people like yourself just, you're doing your own content yourself, giving your takes, and hey, whether people listen to it or not, it is what it is. I'm telling you what I believe, how I feel, and yeah, not everybody's going to agree, but you're putting yourself out there, and me personally, I appreciate that when people do that more than that whole other. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but that's just kind of me
Oh, do I ever?
saying.
Do I ever? Thank you for bringing that up because I know both of you, it probably makes you feel like you're going crazy. Because to your point, yes, there are so many large creators out there, much larger than myself, many times over, and they are committed to sharing whatever drives the most engagement,
Hmm.
Yeah.
not always the message that needs to be shared. There are some messages politically you have to deliver that aren't going to be sexy, that are not
Hmm.
going to go viral, that are not going to be heard by hundreds of thousands of people. But to assume they don't matter is to say, oh, well, maybe for the 200 or 300 people it does reach, maybe it is worth it for them. Maybe it will help change their mind. So the mentality has to shift because the responsibility that so many of these larger creators have
Hmm.
is enormous. But if you're sitting there just literally trying to constantly throw the reddest of red meat to your base and get them all riled up. And a couple years ago, the big thing that all the big pages were sharing was something to do with a couple train derailments happening. And all of a sudden, oh, the whole feed is train derailments. I'm like, can we stay focused on what's really important here?
Yeah.
Like, yes, they happen just the same as other things happen. But if you're going to sit there and just yank your followership by the chain, yank their chain, I should say, and not make sure they are extremely dialed in particular areas. Some of these bigger pages are in California.
Hmm.
Some of them are in Texas. Some of them are in Florida.
A lot in
And so
California didn't post
they
anything
are.
about Prop 50 too.
Yeah.
Nope, but they're the first ones. They'll jet off to some super star-studded event or whatnot, and
Mhm.
expect that Scott Pressler is going to do it all. And I'm sorry, but Scott Pressler is just one man. God bless him. God keep him safe.
Yeah.
But we need a million more Scott Presslers. We need 1 million more Latino free minds. We need 1 million more patriots in
Damani.
states like Texas, in
Mhm.
places like Florida, in places like Louisiana, in places like Mississippi, unconventional states, places like Virginia, like North Carolina, like Tennessee, like Nevada, like Utah. The list goes on and on. We need
Mhm.
people in all these different places who are going to wake up and do what's right, whether they're performing for an audience of millions or an audience of 10. It doesn't matter. But all too often, people get in their heads, I don't have a big enough following. What if I lose followers for sharing what I think on social media?
Mhm.
Let me tell you this. I lose followers every day, a couple hundred followers per day, right?
Mhm.
We would not be speaking to get together tonight if I did not decide one day to just start talking and not care what happened. I lost a lot of friends. Even some family members won't talk to me anymore.
Mhm.
But you know what? It's all worth it. Because what will it profit you? The Bible says, what will it profit you if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? But what I like to also put a different spin on it is to say, what would be the point of saying, I kept my mouth shut because I was afraid of what would happen. And that's why now my children have to grow up under Sharia law. Do you know how gutting of a statement that might be that you might have to make one day if you don't take it upon yourself to actually fight back against globalism, against socialism, communism, against the encroachment on the American way of life of our ideals?
Mhm.
Just because you don't want to rock the boat needs to be rocked really roughly. It doesn't feel good. It's going to cause people to come after you. It's going to cause you to lose people who you might have thought would always be in your corner. But I'll tell you this, what I've seen and experienced myself personally is you will gain so many more like-minded, good-hearted, patriotic, God-fearing brothers and sisters when you do start speaking out than you ever would hope to find if you didn't start speaking out. And you have to remind yourself of that. If you're out there watching this video right now, I encourage you, start using your voice for something productive and constructive,
Mhm.
because they can't silence all of us. One day they might silence me. They might silence Latino free minds, but they will not be able to silence all of us. It is impossible. So it's up to you to start getting busy and getting busy right now.
Exactly, Damani. And I just want to point out, you know, finding people that are like-minded, that's half of the battle. The other half of the battle, and this is something I talk about with Daniel and the other guys at Latino Free Minds, is how do we convince people to change their minds? It's not the rage bait content. It's not, oh, we want to change votes here in Fresno County, which is a county in California. We want to change votes here in Fresno County, so let's push out all these videos of all these people committing crimes in Fresno County. Like, that's not changing people's hearts. It just
Mm-hmm.
pisses people off. Oh, that sucks. Like, if we had a conservative mayor tomorrow, which we do have a conservative mayor, but I'm just using this as an example. If we had a Democrat leader today and it changed to conservative tomorrow, do you think that that rage content won't still be created here in Fresno County? No,
Mm-hmm.
it's still going to happen even if you have a conservative leader. Now you get the Democrats that put the same rage content out there. It's just a circle. So
Yep.
what we need to do is really come out and talk about the policies of it all. What changes do we want to be seen? It's like
Mhm.
I had mentioned earlier. Everybody gets so upset about ICE. Well, okay, you're mad about that. You're mad at Donald Trump, but really, if you think about it, if you're educated enough, they're just enforcing the law, right? So
Mm-hmm.
where do you point that anger at? You got to go point it at the congressman. What are you doing over there? What are you doing to change the law? Because this little rage bait content, these little infightings on, oh, Israel this and Israel that, we're losing complete sight of what's happening right here, right now.
Did
Yep.
you?
It's like you said, local is most important, right?
Yeah.
Local, state,
Yep.
and then the federal level.
Yep.
And we're worried about the global level right now, and we completely lost focus of what's going on here. And I
Oh
can go
yeah.
down to the library and watch a man dressed as a woman with a short skirt reading books to kids, and
Did
we're
you?
not
Yep.
focused on that. We're focused on Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, come on, guys, what's going on?
No, you know what? It's. I know Gio, you were following the shutdown. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even know they I didn't even care, honestly. But let me ask you a quick question, Gio. In that shutdown, did the Democrats fight for DACA citizenship?
No, no, they didn't.
Mm,
The only person that came close to doing anything for DACA citizenship was Donald Trump back in 2018 when he offered to give them citizenship
yeah,
Mm.
and
twice.
Democrats said no.
And Pelosi and Schumer sat there
We
and
always,
didn't
yeah.
want to give them a few $1 billion to build the wall. What the hell? Like, come on. Do you
Mm.
think they really care about you? They don't care about you. They just care about their numbers. They just care about having the power. They don't care
No.
about the people that are going through it. They really don't. They call themselves the party of the people, but they don't give a darn about the people. They really don't.
They
And
have to
then
have a victim class. They have
The
they
to.
do.
evidence doesn't prove it, right?
The liberal party the Democrat Party ceases to exist when individuals become fully self-reliant.
Hmm.
All
Okay.
Democrats have done is they have mastered the art of masquerading as someone's friend and benefactor.
Yeah.
They've perfected the art of saying, "Oh, all you need is a little help. Let me help you." Tell me why Gavin Newsom's 10-year plan to end homelessness is now what, turning 22 years old this year?
Something
It's
like
So
getting
that. Yeah.
see,
worse. It's getting
they
worse.
they run Geo, to your point, they're gonna run on, oh, what I've done for you lately, right?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, and Gavin Newsom, I believe it was Gavin Newsom who was cleaning up San Francisco
Yeah, he
or some other
did.
city when
San
Xi
Francisco.
Jinping came yeah, and he's
Mhm.
going to clean that up. And I guarantee you this, I know they're going to do this. We've got the Olympics coming up in LA in 2028. Don't you know they're going to have the biggest cleanup effort ever just to
And
put on a face?
and they're gonna use that if he runs for president. He's gonna use the videos of a clean Los Angeles during the Olympics
Yep.
because all eyes are
Make
on
no
it.
doubt
He's gonna
about it.
use that
He's
for
running for
ads.
president. Let's stop
Yeah,
Oh
pretending.
yeah.
he's
He
going
didn't go
to.
to Texas for no reason.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh
stop
yeah.
acting like he's not running for president. He's running for president. I fully believe that Proposition 50 was just a ploy to make sure that California didn't get more seats to go Republican so that when he does run for president, he doesn't lose those electoral votes of California. Because
Mhm.
it could quite possibly, I mentioned this earlier to Damani, it could quite possibly flip when the next election or the following.
Mhm.
So at some
Yep.
point, while Gavin Newsom is either trying to get to the White House or trying to rerun to stay in the White House, he's going to need California. And the only way to do it is to lock in the electoral vote here in California through 3032.
Yeah. No, I think our focus
Yep.
here in California should be, yeah, they try to take 5 seats, so we got to do everything we can so that they don't, because it's up for grabs. It's in the air. So you know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's yeah, it seems guaranteed, so to speak, how they're drawing the lines. But hey, if again to what you guys said earlier, if people start to talk about it, what's going on, what the Democrats are doing to the state, especially here in California, and
Yep.
more people know, then hey, maybe they only get 3 or 2 of those 5 that they thought they were going to get, and then we just throw a wrench into their plans. We can do that
I,
Yep.
too.
I,
Still,
I just want to say for the 48 states that are watching, California and New York City, watch us fail. Okay. Watch the citizens suffer and think about it when you go vote. I'm not saying vote all Republican. Okay. I recently
Yeah.
registered as Republican. I have in my adult life, I have been registered Democrat, independent, and very recently Republican. But I have been conservative for a few years now. I actually voted for Donald Trump 3 times. Um,
Mhm.
you just, I'm not telling you to vote Republican, but vote, look at those policies. What really is going to benefit you? And are you really going to benefit from paying more taxes? Are you really going to benefit from that? If not,
Think about it.
really think about what you're voting for. And Daniel had this great slogan a year ago. It was vote your reality, and we need to bring that back, Daniel. We need to vote our reality when we go out there to the polls. And it's kind of late now, right? We're already at the tail end of November. We're months away from the midterms, but we need to bring that back and tell people to vote their reality because they really need to look at it. They need to get educated, really think about what's happening, and just look at the recent. I mean, California is going to suffer for the next few years. It's going to be 40% of people that won't have any representation. And that's just the people that voted for Donald Trump. What about all the independents? What about all these
Mm-hmm.
green parties, the Liberty Party, whatever parties there are? They have no representation because the Democrats just have full, what do they call it? Where they have super majority.
Yep. Yep. That it's unfortunate. It breaks my heart that there's good people in California who are going to suffer. The hope is that even those people who suffer will still say that there is enough good in California that's still worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I firmly believe that if you turned off the news, most people, your quality of life would improve by the factor of 12 overnight. The
Mm-hmm.
news has you locked into this feeling of existential dread. When you go out and you wave to your neighbor in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your neighbor doesn't look the same as you, the neighbor's not standing there burning a cross on your front lawn. Okay, like it's 2025. All
Yeah.
right.
Your
Um,
reality.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute you almost like step back from this toxic sludge that has become, the online world, the minute that you find yourself feeling happier, more fulfilled, more hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
So think about how devious this is. That is why a lot of these, these liberal ideologies fester in places like TikTok. If they can
Mm-hmm.
just suck you in and keep you tied to your phone 24/7, then you never realize the world for what it is around you. So to vote your reality, yes, I 100% agree with that sentiment. It needs to be brought back. And the hope is that enough people will still be willing to fight when, and if and when they have the ability to actually change course in the future.
Yeah. And even all these policies the Democrats pass, eventually they're gonna fall apart, because we have that incident, right? I'm pretty sure you saw the lady at the Gold's Gym,
Yep.
where
Tish Hyman.
Tish Hyman, yeah. So,
Yep.
she was in the women's locker room, the guy was in there changing, or the guy was in there naked or whatever. And it's like it's gonna fall apart because if I'm not mistaken, because they love to play identity politics and who's the bigger victim, so to speak. So based on their rankings, she's black, and I think she's a
Yep.
lesbian.
Yep.
So they can't say she's. I don't know if the guy was another race, but they can't say she's racist, and they can't say she's homophobic. And she
Mhm.
is talking about not having men in women's spaces. So it's like what
Yep.
that's falling. It'll fall apart. So it sucks that we have to live through it and women have to live through that, but eventually I think it'll start to fall apart because how do you justify that?
That man
You
had a
know?
criminal record too, if memory serves me correctly. He had
Yes,
a criminal record.
she went to a meeting talking about our
I
boy
saw
Scott
that.
Wiener, and she
Yep.
said that guy had punched his wife so hard that he dislocated her jaw or something like that.
Mhm.
That's one of the things she said. And Scott Wiener,
Yep.
he's trying to play word he's juggling words because he didn't want to say trans women aren't women, so it's like that was a struggle session for him to
Yep.
try to, because he didn't know what to do with the black lesbian woman talking about
Mhm.
not having trans women in the locker room. Like,
Yep.
you can tell, you couldn't see his face, but I could tell that the way he was answering and kind of stuttering along there, it what does he say? What can he say? What can he accuse her of?
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
there.
So to Gio's point, Gio was talking earlier about, politics is all about like more like what have you done for me lately?
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish, and I know there's people out there who could do it. Like I wish I had the time. I know y'all working full-time jobs. I work full-time jobs as well. On top of this is a passion project for all of us,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I wish someone would start an exhaustive catalog of just little clips like Tish Hyman interrogating Scott Wiener, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these little minor bits and pieces that you can string together over the next 11 months to tell the story of what really happened, because people don't even remember what happened a couple years ago. Prime example, do you remember the Stop Coney 2012 campaign?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't remember that. 13 years ago, right? It was all about recency. Oh, this was a huge viral moment, right? And then it faded away. Most people, and this shows you how well they've been indoctrinated. Most people still think that January 6th was a violent armed insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even know the information that comes out that shows, oh yeah, there were hundreds of federal agents embedded into the crowd themselves, right?
Mhm.
Provocateurs. They don't know, they don't care, right?
Mhm.
So there has to be some more effective way. And Republicans who are out there in these in the leadership roles, they've got to start mastering this better. The art of succinct storytelling.
Mhm.
You have to help people see exactly what is going on and not let them forget it.
Mhm.
Because what the shame of it is, and Gia was mentioning how it still hurts people to talk about Charlie Kirk, as well it should. The shame of it is, in the political world, by the time the midterms roll around, his assassination will be viewed as politically old news. Oh yeah, that was
Mhm.
forever ago. Because of our news cycle moves so fast,
Mhm.
we need that image seared in our brains forever.
No,
Our
but
individual who celebrated that to look at those images, look at those celebration montages forever. Because
mhm.
the only way that it will get through to some people is to see that level of naked evil, that complete dearth of basic civility,
Mhm.
broadcast 24/7. If we can somehow master the art of storytelling that, we might have a chance to actually resurrect some of those old feelings that need to still be there when the next election season rolls around.
Mhm. And then the problem is a lot of people have get their news or get their thought process just through the headline.
Yep.
They just read the headline and then they think, "Oh, J6 was this, this or that." And they don't read the full story. When these media companies go and type the correction, they don't blast that out either. So
Nope.
it's like you said, you got to capture their attention. Right now the media does it with headlines. That's all it
Yep.
takes. So yeah, that's what I think people like us are trying to combat with what we do. We don't get paid for it. You don't know how many times we get in the comments that we're paid by the GOP. And it's like, nah, they should pay me. Damn it, they
Yeah.
suck. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
that's what people revert to. That's what
Yeah.
they go to.
You know
The
what
G-
I tell people too. Sorry, not to cut you out. G, I wanted to make this one last point real quick. One thing, other thing I wanted to mention too is, sometimes people will give you a hard time. Oh, well, you're on social media so much. Why are you on, this platform, that platform, Instagram or TikTok? They're all controlled. And my response is always very simple. If there are minds that can be changed there, if there are eyes to see and ears to hear there, it is our responsibility to be there. That's part of why Trump won in 2016 originally, was because we were willing to engage in a different type of political, you might want to call it like an electioneering, whatever you want to call it. We were able to engage differently, and we were able to actually meet the adversary more or less where they were. We were able to wage war on that ideological cultural battlefield in a way that hadn't been done before and probably won't be done to the same degree in the future. But if you say, I'm just not going to be on TikTok, I don't want to be on X, I don't want to be on Facebook because it's all controlled, then guess what? There are fertile minds that can be reached that you are
Mhm.
effectively seeding to the left by choosing not to be a part of that process. So jump in the Thunderdome. It's worth it. I promise you that. And y'all both are evidence of that as well yourselves.
Damani, I want to wrap it up here soon, but before we do, there's one topic that I want to bring up, and partly because I know that there was, because binging through your content, I know that there was a major influencer in Charlie Kirk that help you get your growth, right? I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, but now now the stage is set, right? That we have all these influencers out here, and so recently, on at least on the conservative side, it just seems to be all this like infighting over, you know, things that really and the things that we talked about today. Does it matter here inside the United States? Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. But what's going on the influencer front? From your growth, how you've seen things move, and what you're seeing now.
Yeah, Gio, good question. What I would tell you is there is a crisis of identity for a lot of influencers on the right side of the aisle, for better or for worse. And for what it's worth, I actually predicted this would happen. I believe it was back in 2021 or 2022. I don't remember the year, but I was talking and I was saying, what's going to happen after, the Trump era ends? A lot of these people, they rose to prominence because, oh, I'm
Hmm.
pro-Trump. Okay, well now many of them are starting to see, okay, yeah, the writing's on the wall. Like this is Trump's second term. What are we gonna? Who are we gonna hitch our wagon to next, right? And a lot of them are starting to say, okay, well, I should warm to this side or that side. So the infighting is basically all these big accounts now crawling all over each other, trying to prove, oh, I am the most this, I am the most that, the most MAGA, the most pro Israel, or whatever other country you might have. So even though it's very uncomfortable to watch and see happen, I would argue in the end it's going to be a net positive for the right, because a lot more people are starting to wake up to the game that even these big influencers are playing. Where it's like, oh, I'm just going to share, the rage bait. I'm just here for clicks or whatnot. Those people will be rooted out in short order, as well they should,
Hmm.
as will anyone else who chooses to trade their own convictions and integrity for a quick buck. There's many instances where people reached out to me. They actually asked me to promote the Freedom Phone that Candace promoted years and years ago. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to stay independent, right? No, I don't want to be an ambassador for this or that. I mean, even Turning Point USA asked me to be an ambassador. And back then I just said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't want anyone to be able to have any influence or dictate what I choose to say,
Hmm.
because the one obligation that you have and the responsibility you have, especially if you're blessed with the large following, is to be as authentic and you as you possibly can, and
Hmm.
not be beholden to anyone or anything for any reason whatsoever. So, people say, "Oh, you're getting paid," but no, the GOP is not paying me. Like to Danny's point, I wish they would. I might
Hmm.
have some better ideas for them. Um, one prime example, and I could talk all day. What if instead of saying, "Oh, get off the Democrat plantation," in the inner city, why don't you say, "Hey, we're going to have a back to school drive at every inner city school that has failing literacy rates." And in each school backpack, the kids are going to get all their resources, plus they're going to get a book of quotes from Thomas Sowell. Do you know how transformative that would be? Like, these are
Hmm.
ideas we need to be having versus the, oh, I'm going to share this meme that was really funny 7 years ago. No, this ground game has to evolve. Our ideas have to evolve. We have to reach people where they're at by developing radical new content or whatever the case may be, to
Hmm.
reach them where they are and to draw them in, to have those scales fall from their eyes while there is still time, by daring to think differently and think bigger than we ever have, if we are serious about saving our republic and saving the rest of the world, because the world is going to follow in our footsteps in many cases. So it is of paramount importance we take this effort very seriously. So I'll tell you this, the infighting will happen. People out there watching it, let it do its thing. Like, just know that there will be authentic, true voices here, like myself, like Latino free minds, who are going to challenge you, who are going to meet you where you're at, and willing to have those conversations we have to save this country. And I would ask you just to find it in yourselves to share the content that you see. That's all you have to do. It doesn't cost you a dime. And begin lending your voice to the fray as well, because it will truly take all of us together.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yep.
I want to give you a moment, Damani, because you have a platform, and as many followers as you have, uh, all of our listeners that might not be following you, and all of the new people that are tuning in, where can they find you?
Oh, find me at just Damani Felder. But you know, I don't even want followers. I'm not worried about followers. I want people to think. I want people to become leaders themselves. The followers, the metrics means nothing to me. Don't be a follower. Be a leader yourself. Your community will find you. We are out here. But if anything, then I would encourage you to seek out these quote unquote smaller voices and give them your ear. Amplify their reach and their message, because they are truly the ones who are going to move us forward into the future beyond these Trump years. And we owe it to individuals who are in this for the right reasons to continue this effort, to continue this crusade in this fight in good versus evil. And Latino Free Minds is a great place to start. So I know I'm following you guys now. I
Yeah.
think I shared the live stream as well. So hopefully more people will find you from here. My phone battery is fixing to dime at 5%.
No,
But
you're
thank you
good.
guys so much for giving me the time. I love that we were able to connect, and I look forward to hopefully doing this again in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you,
Definitely.
Damani. We really appreciate you.
Straight from Damani. Be a
Absolutely.
lead.
Yeah. and go to
Love it.
go to the inner city and make sure every sixth grader has basic economics by Thomas Sowell, and Black Rednecks, White Liberals also is also a very good read for you sixth graders out there. Get started
Yep.
young.
Love
I'm a
it.
big
Love
Thomas
it.
Sowell fan. I'm a big Thomas Sowell fan.
Hey, you've got good taste, my friend. Well, hey, God bless both of you guys. God bless and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. And until we meet again, God bless you and keep you safe.
God bless you. Peace be with you.
God bless.
Alrighty. Take care now.